Welcome.
Hello,
First of
Federica.
all, hello, Lorenzo. Very quick acknowledgements and hello to L'Artiere, this really incredible independent publishing house from Italy that is specialized in the craftsmanship of their books with an extremely careful selection and attention to detail. So thanks to the know-how that they acquired over the years as a printing company. And I'm here today within the amazing virtual New York Art Book Fair, where we all hope to be back in physical form next year, hopefully, crossing our fingers, with Italian photographer Lorenzo Castore. So it's quite surreal to have two Italians talking to each other in English, but that's the way it is. So let's try not to laugh at each other's accent.
Yours is better than mine.
I don't think so. And Lorenzo, his mid-career, can I say that? Is it offensive or?
That's good. I prefer that instead of young photographers. That
Yeah,
I was
probably
used to
for
that for too
Italian
long. It's
standards, you're
over.
still very young. For Italian standards, you're
It's
still
over
very
with the young thing. That's
yeah,
good. Mid
I
career
know.
is fine.
I know. So, who has had an incredible career, starting as a self-taught. I studied something completely different. We will return to this point in a moment. And thanks to his talent, his, let's say, his own particular literary vision of photography, and also later on some very important encounters that he had the chance to experience in his career. He developed a very prolific body of work, making quite a few books, and he was also very clever, I think, but also lucky in a way to set up this really incredible lifelong collaboration with L'Artiere, who agreed, invited, I don't know, we want to know all the details in a second, to actually agreed to publish a sort of like visual autobiographical set of books that will continue to appear in the coming years. So far, we have the first volume, A Beginning, which can be purchased also on the website, on the super cool virtual space of L'Artiere at New York Art Book Fair, and is in the making with the second volume. And we are very lucky today because we have very handmade dummy, so we can have a sneak peek during the conversation. So I forgot to say who I am. I am Federica Chiocchetti, and I am a writer, curator, and the founder of the photo literary platform Photocaptionist, which is interested in the relationship between photography, fictions, and text. Hence, of course, my particular fascination with Lorenzo's work, given its literary nature. And I would like to start with a very first simple question. So the first, before we go into the details of the first volume, I would like you to tell us a little bit more about how this idea of building a lifelong series of books came to you, and how did it work in creating this collaboration with L'Artiere?
Okay, so first of all, hello, Federica. I'm really happy to be here with you. It's special to speak about this with you because I know, I mean, not just me, how into this relation between images and text you are. And in this case, even if there is a text part in these books, it's for me it's more important, more relevant in terms of how this editorial project or this book of life, I don't know, it's complicated to find a proper definition of it, but I would say it has something literary that is especially connected with the approach, with the way I'm trying to build all this. So let's say, I think it's for me it's difficult to define kind of photographer I am, or what I'm really trying to do. It's I'm kind of allergic to to specific to the genre in general, and also to the fact that it's it's a photography is for me something very wide. It's a tool. I really don't believe in this too much authorial approach in considering your own work. So in my case, if it's possible, it was the dream since I begin, because when I start with photography, I was not that much into photography. I was more interested in paintings, in figurative art, in poetry, in literature. And when I first fall into, I had this crush into photography when I saw by chance this exhibition by Joseph Kudelka that was Exiles. It was his for me its most important work, and I didn't know anything about that those days. I was 19, I was 20 maybe. And to see somebody that was able to photograph reality in such a surreal way, in a way where you can see how everything photographed was so real, but at the same time living in his own world. It was in the world of the photographer. It was not just what you see, but it was something more. It was just like an invention of a new world that for me this had an incredible impact, because I thought photography was just to talk about news, talk about facts, talk about reality from a real point of view. It was completely different from what paintings were to me. And the fact that the photographer can be so real at the same time so abstract, just like open a big door in my in my head, in my heart. I immediately understand that this was something I would love to try to do, especially because this first work of Kudelka that I saw, it's something that is there is no really narration there. It's about different pictures took in different places while Kudelka was just traveling around. He was forced to be away from his his country, Czech Republic, so he had no passport, and he was just going from a country to another, just photographing and creating his own world. So what for me was very important and crucial was, yes, of course, the guy was a good photographer, but I saw that there is a possibility of create your own world through photography and through the reality you have around. So let's say from the first, I started photography because of that, and then it took me many years, almost 20 years, to start to deal with this material, and so to then get in touch with l'artiere and ask them, which was lucky indeed in my experience, because it was the first publisher that I approached to propose this idea of a book of life. Now I call it a book of life because it's not a diary, but it's more something about life, where I hope, because of his literary soul, that is not just something that referred to my experience, and in this case, I think I find it very similar. At least the intention is similar to what I saw in this Exiles exhibition, this Kudelka exhibition. So the fact is, to finish about this, is that this is something that really started from the very beginning. Then I work in different direction. I did different things. I work on different projects. I was kind of shy to work on this because talking about personal is always delicate. I'm not this kind of photographer that has no problem in talking about his personal life. I know it's delicate. It's not something that you everything you do that deal with yourself deeply. It's a delicate issue, and I think you have to be, you have to do it when you're really ready, and so it took me some time.
So meanwhile, I'm going to share my screen so that we can start looking at the book. So let's start. This is the beautiful cover, 1994, 2001. And in fact, you also worked with a special graphic designer on this project, right?
Of course, that's very important for me to say, because when I decide I want to work on this, then and then the point was, how can I work with something that will last through the years? Now, till that moment, it was not just a problem of being shy or being not sure how to shape the work. It was also, I had it's a big question mark for me to understand how this can have how this has to be put in on paper, how this can happen as a book. And actually, I always had this problem in consider one book for this work. For me, it was impossible to think that this will finish with one single book. And so I had to find a solution to this, because it's all the time that I try to make one book out of what I was working till the moment I start to work on it. It always seems to me that is not enough. It's kind of dead, when something it's finished, it's there. You cannot go back, you cannot go on. It's very limited in time, and my idea was to do something that will talk about how life develop, how you change through the years, how using a tool as photography, how also the tool change you, and how you change together with the tool you're using. So when I had the idea of doing this one book made of different volumes, then I need somebody to help me in giving a shape, a form, and to find a way to make this different volumes one thing. So through my friend Christian Pujol, I contact this guy Eloy Gimeno, that is a brilliant book designer that unfortunately is not with us anymore. So I'm even more happy to, I mean, maybe happy is not the right word. I'm honored, I'm pleased to remember his name and to remember his work, because this work will be with me till the end of this experience that I presume will last all my life long. So it's
So we hope very long.
I hope so. Obviously, but it's better not to talk about this. It's we'll see.
No,
But
we're
yeah,
too superstitious as
we are
Italian to talk about
superstition
that.
as Italians. We don't say that. But so Eloy designed the shape, this line of time that it's line time. We can consider time as a line that in this case is not a straight one, but goes back, on, up, down, as curves, as angles. And so we try. He designed all this for me, and we agreed that it was good to be very minimal. And we have the dates on the cover and the back cover that are like these stones that you use on the
And bookshelves
bookshelves.
to keep the
Yes,
books, yeah.
to keep it together. But then what you have inside goes like more crazy, and as it's as like experience and like memory. It's not that that you remember everything in a sequence, in a regular sequence. Sometimes you mix things together. Sometimes something that happened before you had the feeling it happened after something, and then so
I mean, in a way, you can see that it's really like a Bildungsroman, in the sense that it's almost like a visual novel that traces your formation years. And I was quite intrigued by the fact that you, for example, refused to put images of yourself as a baby, because of course that wouldn't have been taken by you, but you nonetheless, through this kind of like a fictional power of photography, you recreate childhood through other children that probably you encountered throughout your sauvage years of like explorations and trips and friendship. And that's for me, it's really strong as a decision in a way, because we are constantly, I think, especially now, it's become very trendy for books and for certain photographers to include family pictures from family albums. And what I like about this book, that there is, although, as you say, obviously all this tortuous line that mimic the schizophrenic behavior of memory, there is a fil rouge, and there is a strong coherence, which is aesthetic, but also in a way also this that has to do with this strong decision to have this literary approach.
But I think the literary approach, like together with what I consider very interesting in photography, which is a certain level of ambiguity. With photography, you can play and you can be much more ambiguous than, in my opinion, in any other form of art, or of the way of you communicate about yourself and about stories in general. So for me was crucial also not to be literal, to be literary but not literal. So it means that this way I can recreate a narrative without being a narrative in the straight sense of the word. What years ago we were much more used to see photography as something that use images like in a more narrative way, and still there are possibility to use photography like that, and I do it sometimes when I think is necessary. But what I think for me was important to try to do with this project, with this editorial project, and so with the different volumes, is to speak about something that happened through the years, looking at that with a certain distance. Which when you look at things with distance, I think you are able to create much more surprising resonances, and you are able to see things in a much more complex and mysterious way. Actually, mysteries somehow emerge. You can really create links where maybe at the moment during it's when you live in something, you live in an experience, but then when you look after years back at that experience, obviously this experience will have much different boundaries that you realize when you were living it. So for me, this is a very important part of this project, because the distance that I put between myself and the time where things happen make this time different. It's not just my time, it's not just my diary, but it's about something else. It's about something, I would say, wider, because it's you give more space also for the other to place himself or herself into the experience of looking at something that is completely invented somehow, even if it's as a very real physical roots.
And also, I was fascinated by how we talked about this before. In a way, accidents and mistakes, what normally in a very sort of like, if you want, boring and traditional conventional view of photography are considered to be mistakes, in a way became your sort of like force and power in enabling you. That's I like to when we first talked about this project, I told you, wow, I feel like I'm looking in images at what Roberto Bolaño, the Chilean writer, describes as visceral realism, which is this momentary disconnection from a certain kind of reality. And it's quite fascinating how through the mistakes and all the hidden anecdotes that there are behind certain images, like for example this one that I've stopped the sequence at by Philip Glass, of Philip Glass. It's quite I think it's quite an interesting anecdote if you wanted to share it with the
of course. It's I mean, I think that something that really, another thing that I really love about photography, besides the possibility of being ambiguous, is also the fact that photography, I mean, the way I do photography, because obviously if you work in a studio with all the, you know, set up lights, it's a bit different. But the way I work, it's it really imply the, you know, the a percentage. It depends on, you know, it depends, each time is different, but of you know, it's a kind of something casual, something that you cannot really control, that happens and give an extra value or an extra meaning to what you facing. It's basically, thank God I have this kind of approach, this attitude or a talent, I don't know how to call it, that I don't use my brain when I photograph. It's something that I learn. You know, it was all the best experience that I had, especially in the beginning. They happened when I was not conscious, not at all conscious of what I was doing. So if you do 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, after you know, after years, you see that the best that you did, the thing that really surprised you happen, especially when you are when you are not conscious of what you're doing. It means, I mean, you have to learn something, you know, from what happened. And so in this specific case, this would be a picture that I would never use in my life, and I wouldn't even remember about, if I would not decide after so many years to go back to my very confused archive of the first years. Then I improve. So I now after 2001, which will be the beginning of the second volume, my archive improved. But till that moment, it was a mess. And in this case, by chance, I was in the Palazzo dell'Esposizione in Rome after after visiting the Kudelka again. It's a case, but it's what happened. It was the Chaos exhibition in that time, and Philip Glass was playing in the middle of the show. So I went up with my dear friend, that is also one of the of the characters of the beginning book of this first book, and we look at this concert from above, and then suddenly at the end of the at the end of the concert, I opened by mistake. I thought I reviewed the film, but I didn't. So I opened the camera, light went in, and then I closed it, and then I developed. I felt like such a stupid, such an idiot that I did it, and then I developed it, and the film was full of light coming from everywhere. And then I considered this. I was very young. I was 25, 24. I considered this as a mistake. As I just, shame on me. I'm so stupid. I would never have the chance again to see Philip Glass from this perspective. And so I just put this film aside. And then after so many years, when I was, just trying to find something that I was not remembering about, and then I had this couple of contact sheets in my hands. The one that was proper, that was correct, it was absolutely boring. And the other one where I had where I made this mistake of all this light coming, it was magic. And I felt up on this balcony on the concert, on the place where Philip Glass was performing. I felt I was on in this kind of very old ship where you are in this, and in this where the captain was, Captain Harlock. You remember this cartoon, this Japanese cartoon.
Yeah.
So I felt like in a very special place that was not really connected with reality. And somehow I felt, when I see this image, I felt again the same feeling of being in the middle of the sea somehow. And Philip Glass there, even is Philip Glass, but it's not so important in the end. It might be anybody. So I had the feeling that it was in the middle of a storm or something, which was how I was feeling.
Or fire, even, yes. So I want to start showing the other sneak peek into the other forthcoming volume. And about that, I have a question in terms of editing and sequencing, because if you think about it, in a way, it's quite what I really like about your approach also to bookmaking is that, for example, the first volume at beginning finishes with a picture of the Origine du Monde, and the first picture of this forthcoming volume is with this beautiful pregnant belly of a woman. And I wonder how you I know that maybe you don't have necessarily like a strict methodology, but how you approached editing and sequencing, especially bearing in mind that this is not just a one book, but it's one of a series of books that somehow have to be in dialogue with each other, which I think it's very challenging in a way to edit one book knowing that there will be so many more. But I also quite like the fact that you're not obsessed with the purity of the photographic series, or there are some photographers that they made a series of images, it's got that title, that year, and those images cannot exit that series because they belong there, and they are totally rigid and against any sort of like overlap. And what I really like about your way of intertwining projects, archives, trips that you made, epochs, people, is precisely this fluidity that you have. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the editing process while the images of the next volume are looping, hopefully.
Okay, so the fact is that this editorial project is this book of life. It's all sequenced and edited by me, which is something that doesn't happen all the time. And but in this case, I don't see any other possibilities. I like to work with book designers, or I like to work with curators like you, and we will, when you trust somebody, it's really good to share and to to have an exchange and decide how to sequence, why to put one picture after another, and so on. In this case, I am afraid that I cannot. I'm the only one who can do this, and I can do this just alone. I can come to you maybe and ask you, what do you think about this passage or about another passage? But in general, what I want to express is so personal in this case, that even the, you know, one picture after the other, it cannot come from something else that is not just experience or something that is very rooted in me. So for me, it was also not easy to accept, because, you know, you have to take the full responsibility of this. And you know, when you know that you have to do it alone, and it has to work for you first. I don't do this for, obviously you want to share things with other people, but I do this for myself first of all. So it has to be strong for myself, because I cannot you know, it's when you talk about something where you have a little distance. Here I don't have any distance in terms of personal engagement, involvement in this process. So it means that and also when I do it with some distance, it means that I know what happened next, because I already lived it. You know, this will be more a problem in the future, because I think Tila will do the second and the third volume. And I mean, the second, we are now you are just scrolling the images of this, and you know, it would be more or less like this. I might make some changes.
Thank you, actually, for your generosity, because it's
no, but it's I mean,
and by the way, sorry to interrupt, but we might
No.
have just a couple of minutes, and I don't want this to abruptly stops, because
Yes.
as you know, Zoom ends after 40 minutes. So
Yeah.
just bear in mind.
Okay. No.
Yeah.
So just to make a long story short, it's I know where I want to go, and if I show something that it would be, I think it's interesting to speak about this project with you, and about the, you know, the decision that Lartiere took to be the publisher of this. It means that this will go through. I need to know what I'm doing in the present book I'm working on, if I know also what will come after. And this is very important, because otherwise it would be just a mess. So to answer your question, it's the first book, the beginning, is about a boy, is about brotherhood. It's about a boy becoming a young man. And when you become a young man, when you discover the other, and what is the other with a big O, for a man is a woman, or in my case it's a woman. Then it's you know, it can be when you meet love, when you meet somebody you don't know, and a man and a woman are yes the same, but also there are some things that they are so different. And when you meet the woman like the other, no, somebody that is not your group of friends, somebody that come from the outside, then you enter into something where you are not protected by the bubble where you used
exit
to be,
the comfort zone.
the comfort zone, because you don't know where you're going, you don't know who you're meeting, no. And then, so at the same time, in the first picture of the pregnant woman, which is her name is Mary Louise, and is my dear friend. The boy that is in her belly in that picture is the son of one of my two best friends that are at the beginning. So it's the first of us that, as soon as we exit the comfort zone to enter the adult world, he immediately became a father, which was whoa for you know, for I had this very, you know, little group of very dear friends where we, you know, share experience, we travel around. So when he was 27, he was already a father, and this was a shock. It was a way to enter in the world of the adults, no. So this mark, and this I know, and this is important for me, but obviously there is a relation, even if again it's a very ambiguous, because one, it's a woman, it's a girl that I met, and it was when I went to Poland for the first time. And this woman, I mean, this girl, and this experience just pushed me away from my comfort zone. And then we enter in the second volume, starting with somebody that is the mother of my godson Umberto, that he then will
Yeah.
it's but this open to something completely different, open to to the world of adults, which and in fact this is the only link to the life in the bubble that I had, is the son of my friend, because after that all the friends that we met, the two friends that we met in the first volume, they disappear in the second volume, and they will be back in the third one, for example. So
Okay.
it's yeah,
it's life. It's very
it's life.
complicated and convoluted. I think we're running out of time. This is super interesting. Thank you so much. Hopefully there will
Thank
be
you.
more, and it will be available for perhaps also beyond the weekend of the art book fair. If you have any questions, I mean, it's quite weird to talk to virtual reality, but if you have any questions, feel free to contact Lorenzo. And thank you so much for this.